had, when I was trying to decide to homeschool, I had kind of a, I don't know, like a waking vision, I guess. I felt like I was given a picture of two roads that my family could take. And it wasn't like my children grew up to be the worst people on the planet. It wasn't, you know, it wasn't awful. It was just different. And it was, do you want this or do you want this? If you want this, this is the road you have to go. And I wanted the family that I saw over here that was just slightly different, that the relationship was different, that the way of thinking was a little bit different. And that is one thing that has carried me through hard times, is feeling like I was given from the beginning, here's the potential, and feeling like I can keep heading toward that, I want that, and feeling like God had my back to help me accomplish that. Again, I think I would probably use my oldest as an example, where she wasn't reading until, again, what society would term as late. Oh, actually no, I'll tell you the story of my third, who also, she was very verbal from the beginning, and I thought, oh, this girl's gonna read early, she's gonna take off, and actually she struggled quite a bit. And I remember she was about the age of third grade, and she wanted to learn, but her brain just wasn't quite developed enough to learn. So we would work on letters and sounds because she wanted to, and then the next day they were gone. It was like she hadn't even learned them. And I remember, concerned? Yeah, I started to get a little concerned. Like, does she need to be is there a learning disability here that I'm not aware of? And I was just about to the point where I thought about getting her evaluated, and she brought me my copy of The Wizard of Oz, and it's this old copy that was my dad's, and it's beautiful, and it's beautifully illustrated, and it's beautiful. And she brought it to me and she said, Mom, I want to read this. And I looked at it and I thought, I do not have the heart to tell her, there is no way you are going to be able to read this. And I said, well, okay, we'll work on it a little bit at a time, and if you decide you want to stick with this, if you complete this whole book, I'll give it to you. And so we sat down, and oh, it was slow, like one word at a time on these days. And I remember though, after several weeks and months of working on this, she looked up at me one day when she finally got a whole sentence. And she looked at me with these big blue eyes and she said, Mom, I love reading. And it was such an expression of joy, and just, I knew that had she been in a different system where they would have told her, you're slow, or you can't do this, or something, that either she would have given up, or she would have labeled herself as that, or she would have hated reading, or something. But to have that experience of the quality time with her, reading something quality and trying to do this, was so beautiful. And again, it just was outside the box. It wasn't on anybody else's time frame. And now she's reading fine. But it just took that idea of quality and not conformity to do that. Oh, that's a really good question. If they're not really trying.
Or do you?
I don't really. I can tell when they're not trying, but I guess at the point where they don't try, generally they've got it's older. It's like my older kids who will just kind of go, I don't know. And then they usually have a mentor or somebody that, I don't have to say to them, oh, you need to write your paper better, or it should be longer, or I can tell you put zero effort into this. Because they're going to get some feedback from their mentor at some point, or they're going to see other kids' papers, or at some point they're just going to go, I think I have more to say than just one sentence. Or I guess I'm a big proponent of natural consequences, and at some point when they But I hear in the question though, that there is that line between natural consequences and teaching your kids how to work, which I think is really important. And helping them understand that they can do hard things. And I think that's where the core principles of actually teaching them to literally work, like clean a house or take care of the yard or help out with something, that's where they start to get the confidence that they can do hard things, and if they try, they can do better. So if you have if you expect higher standards there, then I think it starts to bleed over, if that makes sense. And so I don't feel like I've had to say to them, oh, you gotta try harder at your writing, or, it just kind of naturally happens as they learn to work more, literally. It transfers over into their schoolwork. I love, I think it was Gandhi, who talked about how he, more than anything for his adult children, he wanted them to be people of character. And that anything they needed to learn, world-wise or school-wise, if they needed to, they could. In a short amount of time, they could learn what they needed to learn. And I think that idea and concept is what is kind of my vision, I guess, of what I want. And therefore, it doesn't have to be complex. If I want my children to grow up to be people of character, well, what do they need to learn? They need to learn how to work. They need to learn to be kind, compassionate. They need to learn that they have the confidence that they can, I guess I already said it, but do hard things. Or those are pretty simple principles that don't require pages and pages of worksheets or these big whatever diagrams. That's just kind of consistency and relationship. In all honesty, my husband is better at this than I am. But yes, I really like, I feel like homeschooling by itself in some ways really teaches a lot of those concepts, because my kids are with each other every day, all day. They have to learn how to get along. They have to learn how to solve conflicts. They have to learn how to be kind when you're sick of seeing this person's face day in and day out. They have to learn all these relationship skills that I think a lot of people don't learn until later, because they are, and so there's not, and then just by working with them and or reading the classics and introducing them to great characters who were performing great acts of service, or exploring or doing something, that all does it for me. I don't necessarily have to do that. I've always loved continuing to learn anyway. And so my own reading time has always been really important to me. But then when I was pregnant with my seventh, I went back and finished my degree and felt like it was time for me to do so. And it was hard, because it was hard to be gone from my little young family and my kids, and it was hard on them, and they'll tell you that was a hard period of time for them. There was a lot of growth, but it was also really hard. And since then, I have continued to use my degree and feel like in a lot of ways I'm starting to be in my impact phase, and that requires it to be a bit about me and not them. But what I've learned, what I've seen, for example, is if my husband's working on the car, they want to go see what he's doing. Or if we go camping, they want to see what that's all about. As I'm writing a paper, they want to come see, well, what are you doing? What is this? They're curious, and they're curious about what it means to be an adult and what it means to continue learning. And so I have found that it eases my guilt a bit, because I see them playing mental health clinic or whatever it is, that they play whatever it is, and I see, okay, this is sinking into them, the idea of becoming an adult. There's no timeline, so I can talk about mission, they can see what I'm doing, and I can tell them, I feel like this is important to me, and here's why. And again, by continuing to just say all that and have the relationship with them that I do, which I feel like is crucial in homeschooling, it's almost like this continual invitation to them, and at some point they're going to take that invitation. But it's kind of having faith in the structure, and in them having faith in your own children, that they will become the people that they need to become, and their path may not look like yours or the path that you wanted for them, but that's okay, because they're learning to think outside the box and think critically and make their decisions, which is what you want. Can I give a little illustration?
Mm-hmm.
My oldest, she came to me and she said, "Mom, I've had the most fabulous education. I've read every classic there is. I feel like I know all this," which she has. And she said, "But I don't know how to be, I don't know how to small talk. I don't know how to just interact with people that I see and talk for 5 minutes." And she said, I really feel like I need to go to a year of high school so I can learn that skill." I said, "Well, okay, that's pretty insightful. So, are you sure it's not going to be?" And she said, "Yes, I need to be around, I need to be in this environment, I need to figure out how to manage this." I said, "Okay." So she went to a year, she figured it out, and then after that year, she said, "Okay, I'm done, and now I just want to go work full time and make some money and start to live my life." And I said, "Well, okay." And I said, "Well, what about continuing this part of your education?" And she said, No, I don't need to graduate officially. I'm going to just do this." And anyway, she's now 18 and is getting ready to go to college because she wants to, because she feels like it's part of her mission now. She's been traveling for a year all over the world, which has been a fantastic education for her. And I have had to let go of, because she said to me, "Mom, stop freaking out about this. I'm okay. And you're the one who taught me to think like this. You're the one who said over and over, don't think outside, or you don't have to be in the box, and you don't have to conform, and your path can be your own path. Why do you think I'm doing this? And I'm fine." And she is the one who kept saying to me, "I'm fine." And the more I saw that she was calm about it, the more it calmed me down, and I'm fine. My brother lives in Rome, and so she saved all of her money from working, and she went to Rome for the entire summer last year. And then he took her to like 9 different countries in Europe. But while she was there, she found herself a job. They just have stores all over the world, and they pay for their interns, they pay for their housing and their transportation and everything. So she called me and she said, "I'll be home for 2 weeks, and then I'm going to Key West for 4 months, 5 months. Okay. So she came home and packed her bags and went to Florida, and while she was there, she decided that when she came home, she wanted to really keep experiencing. So she said, "I'm going to Oregon. I really want to go there." And she bought herself a plane ticket before she came home, because she knew if she came home, she might not go. And so she came home. She was home, but she had this plane ticket, so she had this deadline. So she went up to Oregon, and is determined to make it on her own. But actually, she's now in San Francisco, and she'll be there till August. But
what's she doing
now? Del Sol called her and said, "You want to come for 2 months? We just need someone for 2 months to bridge this." And she thought, well, school hasn't started yet, and it'll be a great way to make some money and see another place. And they just actually asked her to extend until August, and she's going to, and she'll start school in the fall. So they were completely on their own, but within the structure of, here's your job you have to go to, and they have rules as far as like, they're not supposed to have guys in their apartment, they're not supposed to drink, things like that. But still, they're on their own. And I had to, again, look at her, let's take a step back and realize that she had learned all of this. I mean, through her reading the classics and through what she had done at church, and just through our relationship, it was time to let her apply and try and figure out who she was and make just whatever decisions she was going to make. I have a mom mentor. She has 6 kids, but her youngest is as old as my oldest. So I met her when my oldest was 2. And I remember she said that what she wanted more than anything was when her kids left to move out, that she had no regrets, that she felt like she had taught them the God, like taught them as much as she could, and could then say, okay, whatever decisions you make, these are now your decisions. And I wanted that. And I've watched her. Her kids have, some of them have really wandered, and then they've kind of come back, but she hasn't ever felt like that pang of regret of, I didn't teach them this or that. It was very much a real sense of calm, of like, these are your decisions, these are hard consequences, and I love you, and I'm here to support you, and I'm sorry this is happening, or whatever. And I wanted that. Where she began and where her children began, you know, and what she was responsible for versus what they're responsible for, she had such a clear vision of what that was. I've really come to believe that we have many missions, or, you know, several. So, but yeah, I feel like right now I'm participating in part of my mission, and I hope it will last for a while, and if it doesn't, that's fine. But I feel like when God opens the door and says, okay, you know, this is what you've been preparing here, and preparing here, and preparing here, now you're ready to do this. And so yeah, I feel like I'm currently a sex educator, and I feel really passionate about it, and that it's something that's really, really needed and important, and my kids probably get tired of me talking about everything, but it's important, and mission's important. I feel like it's hands down the relationship that I have with my children, and the relationship they have with each other. I would not trade that for anything, and as my children have gotten older, I feel like they will talk to me. We can talk about things that I don't know that other kids, that I certainly didn't talk to my parents about. I feel like the friendships they have with each other are so beautiful, and I'm all about relationship anyway, but for me that's been the most beautiful creation out of all of this, is feeling like we're this true kind of family unit, and no matter where they go in the world, that relationship will exist. I feel like already they can think about things in they can just think about things that I didn't think about when I was 15 or 18, or even in my early 20s. You know, I've had to undo so much of my programming and training, and I don't want them to have to waste their time doing that. I want them to be able to jump into whatever their mission is or their life path is, and to be able to do it with confidence, and to feel like they can make sound decisions, and that when they read something they understand, and they understand the point of view of the person who wrote it. And so I just think that they see the world. I don't think I truly understand how different they see the world from the way I saw it. And I'm interested to watch my grandchildren and to see how they're parented. That's a really good question, because I know a lot of people who homeschool, and who homeschool in a variety of ways, and I think people find what works for them. I feel like this type of structure works well for people who are a little more laid back, and or who have that idea in mind, as far as, I would like my child to be this type of person, as opposed to, I would like my child to go to this college. And not that either is, you know, better than the other. It's just, again, who are you, and what do you want, and what are your values? And if your values are, I want my child to go to a specific college and get in, then this may not be the structure for you. But there are so many types out there, so you may want to look into something else. So I guess I would say that it works I think it works really well for people who are more interested in character development and leadership development as opposed to just getting the schoolwork learned. Oh, absolutely. And you know, interestingly enough, there was a woman who was not happy with my decision to homeschool. And she said, public school is the foundation of democracy in America. This is how we transmit our culture to the children, is through public school. And she was very upset. And I thought her perspective was so interesting, because I thought completely opposite. That through this structure, by teaching my children how to think and how to think critically, and how to even think critically of their elected leaders and the cultural traditions we have in this country, and like really think about it, to me that promotes leadership, and that promotes freedom, and that promotes continued, promotes our country and what our ideals are, as opposed to getting everybody to just conform to a certain idea of what America is supposed to be. I thought that was fascinating. By learning to think deeply and critically about the world around them, they're better equipped to make whatever decisions for their lives, and to feel confident about those decisions, and to participate in society in a way that is constructive and helpful and thoughtful.
And they're much less likely to be fooled or enslaved in maybe subvertive ways.
Yeah. I joke with people that once you start research, like if you don't want to homeschool, don't research it. Because once you start researching, you will see that there really is no other way. I have cherished the time that I've had with my children. I'm grateful that I had an opportunity to be home with them, and that my husband was supportive. Not everybody has that. And I wouldn't trade the learning journey that we've been on for anything. But it's hard. You have days where you want to quit like anything else, but it's worth it.